Good afternoon. The October 27th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order, and the first item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from the October 13th meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the November 13th minutes. Are there questions, additions, corrections? Hearing none, voting please. Minutes are approved. Next item is a consent docket.
Move the consent docket subject to individual consideration.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask the trust to strike item J from your agenda? This is an amendment with Lewis Contractors. There's a pending, the goal in this work was to accept the project. We understand there's a pending resolved payment, so we need to postpone this, if that's all right with you. And I'd suggest just striking it rather than setting a specific time, given that we have 30 days to resolve the problem that's pending.
I'll move that we strike number 3J
And do the rest.
and do the rest of the items under the consent.
Any other questions or comments on any of the other items on the consent docket?
I'll second that.
Hearing none, voting please. Consent docket is approved. Next item is a concurrence docket.
Move it subject to individual consideration.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the concurrence docket. Are there matters to be considered separately on the concurrence docket?
Mr. Chairman, I would point out that on your concurrence docket, you have two projects that are funded by a grant at the Draper Power Plant. The first is purchase of the first is the installation of the first half of the work in the electrical improvements that will be made under the 2013 grant at Draper. Again, it's an electrical loop and duct bank and other improvements in getting ready to put additional electrical reliability into the plant. Item B is purchase of the generators that will be installed to provide backup power. And this purchase is to provide backup 4 generators, which eventually powers the whole plant.
I have a question about item F, but it has to do with a sanitary sewer line improvement in the south area. Perhaps we could just talk about that. I just like to have more information. It's been a terrible area for flooding over the past several years. So I appreciate seeing it on here, and I'll talk to you about it later then. Any other questions about the concurrence docket? Hearing none, voting please. Concurrence docket is approved. Next item, presentation of utilities deposit procedure.
Mr. Chairman, Alan McDonald, our Utilities Customer Services Superintendent, is going to join us this afternoon to tell us about a proposed change in the way we make customer deposits. Alan?
Good afternoon. I'd like to take a few minutes to visit with you about ways we could possibly change our customer deposit processes to make it simpler on our customers and to make it simpler on our employees trying to explain the deposit process. Our current process is water, wastewater. There's a $50 residential deposit, and commercial deposits vary based on what particular type of business or commercial activity is going to go on at the property. And we have a mechanism that we can refund these deposits after 1 year of good pay history, and that is pay on time. We allow one late payment in a year, and we can refund this particular deposit. The solid waste deposit for residential is $40.85 currently, and what that is 2 months advance on your refuse bill. And we do not have a way to refund this unless the customer just completely moves out of Oklahoma City, period. Whereas a lot of these are deposits are transferable from one address to the next. We don't have a way to refund the solid waste deposits. Now, we will waive currently the water and wastewater deposit with a letter of good credit from other utilities, but we don't have a procedure to do that with solid waste. And what we propose to do is to credit the current solid waste deposits back to the customer. If we decide to do this, we could get this done, I believe, in January of this year. We'd like to propose to change the minimum deposit and make it just one deposit. Instead of having a water and wastewater deposit and a solid waste deposit, we would like to just have one utility deposit, and that would go from $50 to $80, which if you had all of our services, would actually be a reduction in your overall deposit. And the $80 is based on an average residential monthly bill. That's where that number comes from. And we would like to continue to return, continue to return these deposits after 1 year of good pay status. And that's what we propose to do. We would be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have deposits that we've held for longer than a year now?
Yes, sir. We currently have a water deposit, last I looked, a water deposit from 1973. That's the oldest one on record.
We didn't have any plan, there was no procedure for returning those before?
It's always, as far as I know, it's always been the 1 year of good payment history, good payment status.
How do we still have one from 1973?
They've always had a late payment. When I saw it, we went and looked at it.
Okay.
However, for the vast majority of customers, 1 year's good payment status does occur. It reduces frankly, it makes things a little simpler for staff, as Alan said, both in explaining it to customers, the difference to customers. Oh, I got my water deposit back, why didn't I get my solid waste deposit back? And the truth is, at this time, they're just different. When we return deposits, we typically return, consistent with the ordinance, we return the current 2 months' pay. So while we're holding the money, customers are getting a little bit more than they paid into us when they do terminate solid waste status. This just clears things up from a bookkeeping standpoint, but also from it clarifies for us how much we're holding at all times and making certain that we're paying out only what we took in.
It makes it easier on the employees and the customer, but also by when you're trying to explain the 2 months advanced on the solid waste, a lot of people there's a message being lost there somewhere, and it takes a little bit of time to try to explain that to the customers as well.
Any other questions or any?
I'll move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the joint resolution concerning the establishment of security deposit policies. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, voting please. Thank you. Items from trustees. General manager's report.
So this meeting, we have the simple report about lake levels and meter sales and water pumpage and wastewater treatment. Ironically, during this period, we had a significant decrease in meter sales. And I say ironically because the overall total seems to be very good for the year, very consistent with the last couple of years. It just struck me as a surprise that 332 meters were a 33% decrease from last September. Wastewater, again, it's been a relatively dry fall, so wastewater treatment is fairly consistent. The lakes Lake Seteka and McGee Creek received more rain this week and are in the flood pool in both cases. Like Oberholser's down about 4 feet. It's 1237, I think. Draper is down almost 10 feet, and that's a significant change for Lake Draper compared to earlier this year. That's because the pipeline is down.
When's it going to be back up?
March, maybe earlier. We've gotten some news today about environmental permits to do the work. We're making a design change this afternoon, and we're working feverishly to get that accepted. Corps of Engineers is good. We'll figure out whether Fish and Wildlife is good, and then we can go. Lake Canton has dropped about 1/2 foot over the last month and a half or so, dry weather in the west. The rain, the vast rain that was in the Panhandle didn't hit Canton very much at all. Got a couple of inches and lost it to active operation. So, happy to answer questions about other parts of the operation.
Any comments from citizens? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.